We're live, everybody.
Hey,
Good,
crazy
good, good.
time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, should I pull up my phone and check us out on live? I don't even know
Let's
how that
see.
thing works.
All right, let's see if we can see ourselves here live. We'll go ahead and pull this up. Man, I apologize that the technical stuff gets to me the way it does, but my goodness gracious, it should all be fine. This week we had to completely delete and reinstall software that we've been using for 2 or 3 weeks now, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And the same steps that I normally would go through would not work. So much so we deleted the app, reinstalled it. Same thing. Had to go out there and, of course, use the powers of Google to figure out just exactly what was going on.
Because our first foray into it was what we've been doing for the past couple of weeks, which is like taking a position on something we absolutely know nothing about. So we look at some setting and go, oh, that should have a checkbox in it.
That's us.
That's live?
That's live. That's us.
Crazy.
So, with all of our viewers, we're going to have to wait for everybody to join.
Yeah. I don't know how much time we should invest in waiting
I don't
on
think we should wait. We didn't
people
tell
to join
anybody.
the live stream.
You've got two guys who, I can't speak for you 100%, but I would anticipate you can be rather spontaneous.
I am extremely spontaneous.
I am a spontaneous person too. Like, for instance, this week, we just decided to go live. Didn't tell anybody. We hadn't even committed to it until we got here right now.
Right? It's still up in the air.
Uh-huh.
But spontaneity for me looks more like, because I'm so lazy, spontaneity actually looks like me just getting up and doing something. Like, fine, I'll do it. That's spontaneous for me. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll comply.
I'll spontaneously do the dishes. Fine.
Right.
Let me turn this off so we don't have to keep seeing a delayed version of ourselves. I don't know if you enjoy seeing delayed versions of yourself, but it kind of throws me off.
I don't like seeing live versions of myself. I cover up the mirrors in my house.
So this week was Father's Day.
It absolutely was. Mine was great, man.
Was it?
Yeah, absolutely. I got a bunch of cool tools for my
Nice.
cigar party, and I was able to spend a lot of time with my kids. Got to my boy's birthday was also this week, so
nice.
We did their birthday celebration where we went around, ate what they actually got to go do that. I was working, but went around, did all the stuff that they wanted to do, Lego store and stuff like that. And then we spent some time in the pool with them. That was really cool because the pool is up to a temperature now that I can actually get into it.
It's definitely toasty, I'd imagine,
Yeah,
with how warm it is.
yeah, it's warm. But I'm struggling with my pool, but we can talk about that later. Father's Day all in all was great. Woke up, had presents, made breakfast for me, and had some really cool presents. I'd love to show them at some point, maybe during the live stream, and let you guys check them out. They are
awesome.
pretty cool.
That would be awesome.
And then had family dinner at my mother-in-law's house last night, and had another little Father's Day kind of deal over there, and the kid's birthday. We all get together once per week, typically on Wednesday, and her mom will make dinner for us, and then on every birthday, like birthdays that are close to that Wednesday, the people that are celebrating their birthday get to choose what they want for dinner, and then they have the presents and a dessert. So we had Oreo cookies and cream pie, ice cream pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That
I try not to eat a lot of stuff like that. Well, I try not to.
I try to eat a lot of stuff like
I know.
that. I really do.
I try not to do that.
Sometimes I can't eat as much as I would like.
I
like
ate all of your Oreo birthday cake that you sent me
wasn't
home.
it?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I was all right. It was okay. Again, I'm not a sweets person, and my wife bakes, so it's like going out to eat for me.
It's kind of like the biscuits and gravy that you brought me tonight, which
Yeah.
were phenomenal, incredible. I told him, well, I guess you can't really go out and get biscuits and gravy anywhere else because nothing would compare to what you have at home.
So I'm trying to put him on an adventure, right? So a culinary adventure. So for the past 3 weeks, I've brought him something to eat, and all of it's been pretty decent so far, right? It was enchiladas one night,
awesome.
Then the brisket sandwiches, and then tonight biscuits and gravy that I whipped up right before coming over here. So that was kind of chaotic, and I left my wife with a stovetop full of boiled over gravy. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Well,
I
that's
apologize.
It was because I was trying to be cool, and once again, I'm in the kitchen going like, "Oh, I have a better way to do this. You're working the griddle. I'll go ahead and clean the griddle for you, even though you're not done with it. I'll go ahead and clean it and not pay attention to the thing that I'm making on the stove, which subsequently bubbled over so much so that it put the fire out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. But it turned out great.
It did
really
turn
good.
out great.
Yeah.
And the question is, like with the food slicer that you had,
Yeah.
does she know how to do it now?
She apparently, as it turns out, she knew how to use it before I showed her.
No, tonight.
Oh, she didn't use a food slicer tonight.
No, I know. So you had to show her how to do it by cleaning it. So did she get the lesson tonight?
Well, I wasn't in my defense this time. I wasn't trying to show her how to clean it. I was actually trying to clean it. She had made bacon for BLTs on the griddle.
Yes.
It's in the stove, right? We have a griddle in the stove.
And I have to say, I do say this in jest. Of course, no way would I think that you needed to know how to do something like this. So I just have to put that caveat out there for your wife that I'm not.
You're not trying to think that she needs to be taught stuff.
Yeah.
She knows. She knows. You know, right? Sometimes you need my guidance. So it's kind of a running thing for me and my wife. Is I've said it for years and stuff. Like, sometimes she'll do something. I just look at her and I'm like, I have no idea how you made it as long in life as you did before I came along. Right? And I know it sounds maybe chauvinistic or self-elevating, but I'm like, some of the things I've looked at her in her life, and I'm like, man, you probably shouldn't be alive.
I am glad that you made it.
Yeah.
That was.
You've dodged quite a few bullets. Darwin has been after you for a little while, survival of the fittest. Mm-hmm. So, but she's fit, so she survived. So that must be how she did it. But it's crazy sometimes. And she's left-handed too, so that's another thing that is just kind of. We were talking about that last night. It's funny because if you're right-handed, you're a hardcore right-handed person, and you watch someone that does left-handed stuff, it looks wrong. Everything about it looks wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like they have control over their utensils. It looks like they're like just kind of hacking at it with a knife, like chipping away at a jewel or something. I'm like, that's a tomato, and they're like, I'm just slicing it. And the funny thing is, the slices come out fine.
Yeah.
Everything that she cuts up comes out fine.
It just looks.
She has all of her digits. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I have no idea, through the grace of God, I think, but
all of
and I'm missing some of mine, right?
Yeah.
So I really am not one to talk with my right-handed, elitist,
superiority.
My elitist right hand stuff. So, but no, she scares me with knives and stuff because of her left-handedness. And so that's a joke. But the other thing, like I said, about I wondered how she made it this far. I'm glad that she did make it this far, though, or at least to the point where I found her. So then, everything can be correct after that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everything after.
You get a pass on your past, and now I'm here, which is kind of funny. But it was a good Father's Day. I got this cool thing to clean my glasses. Right? I don't know if you can tell, but I wear glasses, and so. Even though I don't have much hair, somehow my hair constantly gets on my glasses, and I constantly have fingerprints on them.
Yeah.
So my mother-in-law got me this glass. You've seen those little thin glasses cleaners. Those, they're like some kind of not Tyvek, it's some kind of real thin material.
Yes.
You get them when you get a new pair of glasses, and if you don't wear glasses, you may not know what I'm talking about. So it comes with every brand new pair of glasses, a little square. But she got me one, and it's the shape of a steak.
Nice.
I meant to bring it and show it to you. It's really cool.
That's
it's a T-bone steak. So that was pretty cool. And then my father-in-law got one that's shaped like a record because he's into music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I told you he's an AV guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool. And then I got a fire extinguisher.
Nice.
Yeah. It's super great fire extinguisher. It's heavy duty. It's big and stuff. But I kind of took offense because it was presented to me and said, in case your smoker ever catches on fire. I was just like, it's a little hurtful.
I think I'm a professional.
That was unnecessary. But then I remembered back to how many times I've set my smoker on fire, like literally flames coming out of it.
That's impressive. It's a smoker.
Terrifying.
Not a fire.
Well, mine actually has a thing where you can pull back the cover off the firebox, and it actually will let you take the temperatures up to like 700 degrees so you can sear a steak and all this stuff like that, right? It's like in the bottom, it's just it's a feature of this type of smoker that I have.
Nice.
And so you can mostly smoke, and it also goes all the way opposite direction. It'll do cold smoking, which is really cool. So you can smoke cheese and stuff like that. Smoke my own sausages and stuff like that. Yeah.
cheese.
Yeah.
Now that's really cool.
Now I've done
I've
that.
actually never thought about that, but I do. I guess
Dude.
it's the thing I've never wondered, but I guess I should have always wondered about.
Smoked cream cheese is awesome.
I bet.
Yeah. You just set it out there on the, open it up and
Yeah.
set the block out there and just cold smoke it for a couple hours, and it'll get, kind of melty, but a little coloration on it and stuff. And then if you use it in a dip or anything that you're going to do, or just serve it with crackers, is pretty good too, because it's got that smoke layer on it.
Huh.
And then I read a lot about people smoking like whole blocks of cheese, like cheddar and Gouda and all that stuff. They'll cold smoke entire blocks of cheese, but with that, apparently you're supposed to wrap it up after you take it off and let it sit for another 2 weeks so it can absorb the smoke flavoring. So I don't have a good enough sense of smell and taste.
That's actually really cool. That's
Yeah.
I think I could get into that.
Yeah. Cheeses?
Yeah.
Well, maybe
just that whole process of smoking them and developing those flavors. And again,
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the thing that was neat about cigars and the, humidor and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There's
A process.
ritual and a process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just how things go. That's really cool.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad it was a good Father's Day.
It was. How was yours?
It was good and then extremely stressful all at the exact same time.
What happened?
So, my in-laws are hosting my wife and kids, and they're in Murfreesboro. And my bride came out here with the kiddos to see me Father's Day morning. And then they're like, what are we going to do? And I said, well, we can go ahead and go on to Murfreesboro. I'll drive. And so I took two kids with me. And as we pull into their cul-de-sac, my truck does what it did back in October, I think. I did a video on it where I actually went into a mechanic, and the mechanic told me that I needed a new engine. And I was like, that's a terrible mechanic, because you didn't even look at the vehicle. You just said, you might need a new engine. What kind of mechanic does that?
Right.
No, you said, let me look at it, and then I will give you some type of diagnosis. I'm not going to right off the bat say, well, you just got to replace the whole thing. Anyway, so that was another sore spot for me. But it did the exact same thing. It says low oil pressure, even though I've got oil pressure. I've got plenty of oil. It just says low oil pressure. And it shuts the whole engine down. Will not run. You're stuck dead in the water. So that happened at my in-laws' house, right, as I pulled in. And, my wife was like, what's going to happen? Are you going to be able to make it home? I was like, I'll be fine. I'll just pop the hood, because what happens is when it gets too hot, the oil loses some viscosity. And so that's been my guess, is that the sensor doesn't recognize that the pressure is actually there because it's so warm. So it shuts itself off in self-preservation. So I popped the hood, go inside, was there for a couple hours, and then I was like, I'm going to go home. And she said, I'll follow you in case you need me. I'll make sure that you can make it home. And I was like, what are you going to do? If I'm stuck on the side of the road in the truck, we're not going to just leave the truck there.
Right.
And I'm not going to have you stuck in the side of the road with kids. That doesn't help the situation. It just adds to the stress, right? She's like, what if you don't make it? I said, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And I legitimately thought that I would be fine. I make it about half a mile, it does it again. So I keep oil in the truck just to pour some extra cold oil in there, even though it's going a little bit above the
recommended daily allowance.
Level. I watched a YouTube video, and I know.
Or I didn't.
No, sadly I did. How much extra oil you can put in there is crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. Anyways, so I put some extra oil in. Didn't feel as bad about it this time because I'd seen this video where they actually tested it. And went down the road a little bit, and it was going fine. And I was passing an O'Reilly's. And I was like, ooh, I should stop and get some extra oil and maybe some Lucas, just to have on hand in case.
What's Lucas?
Lucas is an oil additive.
Okay.
It's really, I like it. I can't necessarily recommend it. I'm not getting paid for it, but it's an
What's
extra
it taste
oil
like?
additive. It's a little bitter.
Oily?
A little bitter.
Oily?
A little bitter. A little oily, yeah. It's real sticky.
Yeah.
But, so I put some Lucas in it, and I start driving down the road, and it dies again. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So my wife says, I'm going to come get you. We'll call AAA. I was like, let me just keep working on this and figure it out. Again, remember, it's whenever the temperature's hot that it really has the biggest problem.
Right.
Well, it starts pouring down rain on Sunday. I don't know if you got any rain.
We did about 17 gallons.
Yeah, it was insane. And of course, it drops the temperature. So the truck cooled off, and I was able to start, and then I was able to make it back. So I made it back to, I was going to come to the house, and my wife said, why don't you just take it to the shop, and then I'll pick you up in the morning, and you guys can look at it there. I work with mechanics. It's a good thing to have.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Seems like a no-brainer. So I was like, okay, I'll go to the shop. You can meet me there, and then we'll go to the house. So she gets to the shop. It's pouring down rain. I have to get all of my stuff out of the truck, put it in the van, and I get in the van, put it in reverse, and then I go to put it in drive, and it freezes in neutral.
Your second vehicle.
Second vehicle.
Yeah. Are you on a hill or something?
No. I'm like, what in the world just happened? She's like, what? I said, it won't go into drive. She's like, well, the transmission's been acting up. I was like, it's not that. The shifter's moving. There's nothing happening. The linkage. The linkage.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought initially. Okay, so it's the linkage, but I didn't even know that was a thing. I just knew something is not making a connection.
Yeah.
It's not recognizing that it's actually moving. I don't think it has anything to do with transmission. It's something else.
Right.
So she goes, get out of the van and let me try it. So I get out of the van. I'm standing there in that 17 gallons of water that's coming down, and I'm watching her do the exact same thing that I did.
It was good.
Like, okay, yeah, it's not going to do anything. Why don't you go ahead and put it in neutral, and I'll push it back into the parking spot, and we'll load back up in the truck. So we load back up in the truck that died 3 times.
But it's now working.
Check engine light came on it, obviously, because it was having some trouble. And then we came back here to the house, and her dad came and picked her up to take them back to Murfreesboro. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. So I start YouTubing some videos of what I think could be wrong with the van, find out the linkage. There's a little, I don't even know what it would be called, piece that connects. There's a bushing in it. It sits on this pin, right? And that's how you move. It just moves with it. Mm-hmm. Well, we've got over 300,000 miles on the van, so it's worn out. And I was like, I think that I could fix this.
With the
as I'm
paperclip.
watching, paperclip. As I'm watching this YouTube video, he completely removes the dash, the center console, everything.
Yeah.
And I thought I could do this.
Right.
I'm not a mechanic, but I was willing to try because I had adult supervision in the shop. So we actually, my supervisor and I took it all apart. I did 85% of it.
Right.
He did the last little bit where you had to get.
Don't lie, because he might be watching.
He may not be watching, but if he was, he did the hardest part that I couldn't do, which was actually fix the piece. Yeah. I just did the deconstruction.
Yeah.
And then putting it back together. Now the best part was I only broke a little piece.
Yeah.
And I only lost 1 screw.
Right.
And I ended up with 3 extra screws.
So technically, you didn't lose any. Technically, if you ended up with extra, you didn't lose any. That's how math works.
I told him, I said, I've got extra pieces. Isn't this great? And he just like, oh, good grief, Chris. This would be fitting for you to do. I was like, it's an old vehicle. And honestly, where those screws were supposed to go, there's no way that those are going to be the linchpin to hold this thing together. I'm okay.
So is the van running now?
The van's running.
And it works?
Works.
Is it rattled now?
Totally fine. No.
Because it's missing screws?
No. Console. Now, he goes, you do have kids, though. They may actually knock something loose. I was like, well, as long as they don't throw each other into the front, we may be okay.
Oh, they over-engineer cars anyways. They put too many screws and pieces on them.
Oh, they did on this one.
Yeah.
And then today, we actually changed the O2 sensor, or not the O2 sensor, the oil pump, the oil pressure sensor in the truck.
Yeah.
Because that's a notorious issue with my vehicle.
Oh, it's a known issue.
It's a known issue.
Okay.
So did that and did an oil change and it's fine. The check engine light actually went off before I did anything. Like it resolved itself.
Huh.
It just does not like heat.
So you think the sensor was getting too hot or something and it was just flaking out?
It doesn't recognize the levels at the parameter that I think they had intended it for.
Huh.
And so by default, it's going to go, oh, it's not in
It's
scope.
just weird because you said when it gets hot, when it cooled down, it started running again. So it sounds like it sounded to me, again, without any mechanical know-how or knowledge or training, that your engine was getting too hot.
It's not the engine that's hot, though. That's what's weird. It's not the engine. It's when it's hot outside, the engine temperature shows fine.
Oh.
But you think about it, the oil is going to get warmer,
a lot hotter,
and,
right.
and as it's going through the system and everything, and it's hotter outside, that's going to just increase that. Whereas the engine's got the coolant to maintain those levels there, but
right.
the oil itself is not going to necessarily have a coolant going through the oil system. I first noticed it whenever I tried towing a car back in September, October, and I had overdrive off. And I wasn't necessarily towing enough to require overdrive off.
Okay.
Like I'd already dropped off the car and I was just towing the trailer, the empty trailer, and I forgot that I had overdrive off. It was hot.
But I thought overdrive just means don't go into sixth gear.
Right. So it's going to be revving higher RPMs, higher temperature. It's hotter outside. All of those pieces went into play for what caused it.
Well, I hope that all of your vehicle woes are sorted out.
I hope they're done. But that's why I said that I couldn't record earlier this week. I was like, it's been a little crazy.
Yeah.
I've got to make sure, like Monday, I didn't get to fix the van.
Right.
But my wife can't drive everybody around in any other vehicle. Between ours and her parents, the only vehicle that will hold everybody is the van.
Right.
So I am stressed at work, freaking out, going, I've got to get this fixed.
Right.
I don't know what to do. And, I was looking online some places, okay, well, if I can't get it done here, we just got to take it to a shop, right? They were looking at, some places were looking at like $1,100.
Yeah, I knew that. Because they've got to drop all that.
They had to do all the stuff.
Yeah.
Do all the stuff that I did. And we would expect them to not have extra pieces.
Yeah. They probably wouldn't have told you, though. They would have come out bragging.
Everything's great.
They would not have come out bragging about the extra 3 screws. They would have just, like, I'm going to put those in my spare parts bin and save those for the next time.
I put them in my box at the shop.
Yeah.
I've got a scrap box or scrap drawer where everything that I either break or I find interesting, I've got a piston in there that I took apart on our compressor. One of our old compressors went down, and this is whenever I first started. And I asked my supervisor, I said, do you mind if I mess with it? Can I take it apart? Yeah, sure, why not? So I'm over there. I was like, can I borrow your tools? Because I didn't have any tools. And I'm just tinkering away, taking everything apart, breaking everything. And then I get to the starter part, or some piece, I don't remember which piece it was, on this compressor. And I broke it all apart. And they go, you didn't just break that, did you? Yeah, I did. You weren't supposed to do that. I said, you said I could mess with the engine. They're like, that's not part of the engine. I was like, I don't know that. It's a big chunk of metal that you handed me. I assume it's all one piece.
So you've disassembled their compressor?
Yeah. Yeah, which was fine because the compressor wasn't working, but it was the starter.
Right.
I think it had to be the starter.
So did you fix it?
No, not at all.
So why do you still have the piston?
Oh, because I think it was cool. I told you, things that I think are neat or memorabilia for me in my process. Like whenever I snapped the oil plug.
Yeah.
Because I over-torqued it.
Uh-huh.
I have that broken piece in there.
But why?
Because it's just a funny story, and we can look at it and say, "Oh, do you remember when?"
But no one's ever going to look at it.
Yeah,
oh, you mean you at the shop?
Yeah, at the shop. Yeah, whenever, because I open up my drawer, and every time I do, the guys at the shop will laugh.
Yeah.
About the stories that go along with it.
I tell you,
which is why I keep them.
I'm kind of like poking at you, but I'm the same way. I have this big thing in my garage that's like 6 or 8 drawers. It used to hold carpet samples or something, right? Super heavy duty thing. But I have like all kinds of stuff in there. Screws. I have a boat light in there that tells you like the green and red on a boat. I have one of those in there.
That's awesome.
I inherited that whole assembly and the stuff that was in it from a old man next door that had like, coffee cans full of screws and different kinds of nuts and
All
bolts,
kinds of
washers,
everything,
rubber O-rings. There's a tube of grease in there. And then just organically through my life, I'm one of those people, man, I don't like to throw things away because, like,
you never know when you need it.
You never know when you need it. And I can't do things like create tubular steel, right? Or bend metal or fabricate things, right? Because I don't have a fabricator or a metal,
I'm totally kidding.
A pipe bender.
I can't do any of that.
But you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like, for example, we had a trampoline that we bought for my daughter when she was like, I don't even remember, like, this is a long time. We've had it like 8 or 9 years, I think, maybe even longer. But it had the net on it, you know, with the little aluminum arms that go up and then, or steel, whatever they are, and then the net goes around it. Well, you know, the weather here sometimes gets crazy, and over time, the sun beating down and stuff, the net just kind of wore out, and we ended up buying an extra net because it was tearing apart, but we never put it on. We ended up, I think, putting that on eBay or something, trying to sell that to get the $40 back or whatever. But I took all of the poles off that hold the net, right? Because they're just poles sticking up at this time. And I think maybe one
Those are more dangerous at that
point. Because the kids want to swing on them, and you know what I'm saying? But I ended up taking all those poles off, and then my wife's like, "Oh, I'll put them in the car. Take them to the dump." I was like, "No, man." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Because we might need these curved aluminum tubes at some point." And she's like, "What are you going to use those for?" I was like, "I don't know. Something maybe. I don't know." Well, come to find out, you know, we got a big above ground pool.
Yeah.
And it's you know, just the metal side. It's a ring with a bag hanging in it, basically. There's nowhere to hang up anything to put a shade over to pour anything. What comes into play?
Those
metal poles. Exactly. Metal poles and zip ties. So I zip tied those bad boys to a couple of the legs on the pool.
Yeah.
And then they came with the little, you know, the little top on them already had the thing for the metal thing to hook into for the trampoline wire bar. And it's perfect. I've got 3 of them on the pool, stretched across it, tie it with strings, and I can put up one of those triangle sails over the top of the pool, and it works out great. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so we did it on our last pool, took them down, saved it, got this new pool.
Sounds like some fireworks, everybody.
Was it fireworks?
No need to be
I was
concerned.
about to hit the ground and crawl out the back of the thing. I was like, they're coming for you. Now you've done it. So, but yeah, those poles worked out great for our sale.
So you've got military background, and I work around exploding tires. So
yeah. So you're like, it's nothing, and I'm like, it might be something. It seems like it's something, just in case. At least be poised. At least get ready in a prance position, or you know, a pounce. Prance. I said prance. I don't know, your headband. I saw that and I was like, he needs to prance. He's a prancer. So
be prepared.
Be prepared to prance. Prepare to prance. Right, like a drill instructor. Prepare to prance. Prance.
That'd be great if you heard that in the military. Right all, gentlemen, prance doesn't evoke fear in the enemy from the enemy.
Well, when I was in 82nd Airborne, I had the black hats that would come in. They're like your drill instructors, but for airborne school. And they are constantly yelling at you in your face, "Private, what do you think you're doing?" And everything has to be at like 600 miles an hour, full volume, high intensity. So you're constantly under pressure, man. It's just like you're constantly drawn up. But one of the things they would say, we were on this, I think it was called the 13-foot tower or 12-foot tower. But basically, it's a porch, right, that you walk up on, and it's got a harness hanging off of a big pulley system up there, and it's the replica of, or it's not a replica, it's actually the parachute harness that you get into. So you're wearing your reserve and your harness on and stuff, but you get up on this thing and they hook you up to it as if it's the parachute.
Right.
The black hat's got a rope wrapped around himself like he's on belay, and all he has to do is lean back, you lift up, and as soon as you lift up, you swing out, because the pulley's out here, the stand over here.
Yeah.
So you have to go forward, land, you got to go backwards and land, sideways on each side, and do all the different kind of landing falls. So my black hat, he had that voice, and he would just lift you up, and you start swinging, go, "Prepare to land. Land," and he lets go of the rope, man. And that's your landing. So he let you swing out. He let you swing out one oscillation and then just dumps you, and you have to execute the parachute landing fall that's appropriate for wherever you are in the oscillation before
now,
you
is
land.
it the ragdoll fall, pretty much?
It's a 5 points of contact.
Yeah.
I forget what they are. It's like the balls of your feet, your ankles, and then your side of your leg, and then up on your hip, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, just a fluid thing. But like he would just let you at any point in the oscillation. Bro, listen, I'm telling you, on that day, I hated that day, right? Because I kept getting no-goes. Because he goes, prepare to land, let you down. If you don't nail it, he goes, no-go, right? And so you have to jump up. You have to jump up and sound off with a loud and thunderous, airborne, and then run to the back of the line, right? Everything's running, everything's motivated, pumped up. So after getting, I couldn't get my rear PLFs, parachute landing falls down. So I kept messing them up. The side ones are easy. The front one's easy enough because you just, right?
Yeah.
But the back ones I couldn't do because I would not tuck my head or tuck my chin or whatever it was. And after doing this for several times a day, your muscles that hold your chin down, they get exhausted. You don't realize that, but they get really exhausted. So I couldn't hold my chin down, and I kept getting no-goes. So after I had done probably 15 of the rear ones and failed them, had to keep sounding off with the loud thunderous airborne and run to the back of the line, I get up and I just start dusting myself off. Man, he went ham on me. He ran up to me, what are you doing? What the F are you doing? And I was like, I'm getting ready to go back to the line. He's like, what? And I said, I forget what I said to him, but it was something, it wasn't anything bad. I didn't smart off to him because I was terrified of him, of course.
Yeah.
But I said something and I said, he goes, get back in the line. I said, yes, whatever it was. And, started walking out, and that made him more mad that I was walking towards the back of the line. So he got over there. He's like, what are you doing walking? I said, I'm tired. He's like, you're tired. Good. Get over there and beat your boots. And I don't know if you know what beating your boots is, but it's basically a deep knee bend, right?
Okay.
You start with your feet semi together, and you squat down enough to tap the top of your boots and then stand back up, right?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So I realized after doing probably 150 of those deep knee bends that I wasn't as tired as I thought I was when I first started to exit the pit, right? So I I just had to beat my boots for a really long time. And then I ran to the back of the line, and then I had to do it again. And I don't know if he passed me out of pity.
Yeah, all right, fine, we'll just let you go now.
Right. Because if you do it right, wind may give you a front to rear oscillation, right? You can't come out and have a front to rear oscillation.
Yeah.
But where you're shooting for always, and where you slip for always, is to try to get that left to right oscillation so you can do that nice clean parachute landing fall. But I had one on one of my jumps in jump school. I dropped my rucksack down and came in to prepare to land. I was slipping and all the stuff that you're supposed to be doing. And when I landed, I went to do my parachute landing fall, and I ended up sitting right on top of my rucksack. Oh, my God. The black hat had his bullhorn because he's coaching you while you're coming down. He ran over to me with the bullhorn in my face and was like, what the F was that, Private? Get up and do your parachute landing fall. Get up and do your parachute landing fall. So I'm like freaking out. I was thinking cool. I sat down. I didn't get hurt that time. It didn't suck.
Yeah, it was great.
So I jump up and do a parachute landing fall right there. Impromptu. So yeah, it was crazy. But after that tower thing that day, we went, I think that may have been the last day. And then we got to go, it was the weekend, right? So me and a buddy of mine we were going to Florida from Fort Benning, Georgia. And by the time that the day was over, we showered, I laid down in my rack and could not pick my head up to get out of bed. I had to roll over, and I literally was holding my head like this and then getting up. And, we got a case of beer or whatever. We were going to ride, down to Florida with a case of beer. And, the very first time I cracked one open, the very first time I'm drinking like this, and my head just went, I'm so old now, my head won't fall back that far at all.
Yeah.
But my head just fell back, and I was like, oh no, something must be wrong, bro. I'm going to have to drink through this. So for the next 2 or 3 beers, I'm holding my head while I'm drinking, and then got through it. Your muscles relaxed or whatever. I got past a certain point, and my musculature stuff came back. And I was okay. I really thought I maybe have snapped some muscles or some snapped my neck bones or something, and my head wasn't going to work anymore.
It's done. I'm not going to do anymore.
It was scary. It was scary.
So scary stuff. Speaking of scary stuff, it makes me think of there are moments, again, this kind of ties into the Father's Day thing too.
Right.
You know, and I was talking to my wife as we were trying to figure out what's going to happen with the vehicles and what's going to happen with the house and all of the stuff that we're trying to, you know, navigate. Like, good grief, this is ridiculous. And then another kid's sick, you know, so it's just like one thing after another. Well, our second, she has not gone off the high dive yet at the pool, right? Our eldest has and our son has, but she's not. And my wife was telling me about a story where she had done it. She went off the high dive, but it was so powerful what she said afterwards. She said, Mommy, I remember how you always tell me that fear doesn't get smaller, that I need to face my fear. Otherwise, it will never go away.
Oh.
And she goes, and I faced my fear. She goes, I was so scared, but I faced my fear because I thought about what you said.
That's awesome.
I was like, well, good grief. Who cares about anything else that we're dealing with? That's the kind of stuff that's like, we're doing something right.
Nailed parenting.
Doing something right.
Nailed parenting. Absolutely. That's crazy awesome.
How incredible is that?
But it lets you also know that they're listening to us.
Oh, yeah.
When we're talking.
Yeah, my wife always says, because I'll say stuff to them, and they'll just walk off and just completely ignore what I said. I may try and have a heartfelt moment or whatever, you know. And my wife will constantly go, it's getting in. It's getting in.
Right. Keep going. Keep sticking with it.
It's getting in. Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it does. It gets in.
It does. I can tell it in my children, too. Sometimes whenever you're giving them the lecture and the what for, it feels like they're just like, man, come on, I'll go mow the grass, anything, just stop talking.
Yeah.
But it does resonate with them, you know, and you see that, especially my older daughter, as she's gotten older, you can see that she's the good part of her, you know. And
yeah.
I guess my whole fear is I was bad, or, you know, so I don't want them to be bad. And I'm projecting probably some of my fears of what I know about myself onto them. You know, so I try not to do that. They're all super.
That is so easy to do.
Super awesome. I know, right?
It is terrible whenever you're looking at them and you're going, I know what I would be thinking in your shoes, and I'm going to speak to that.
Right.
And my wife constantly says, they're not you.
They're not thinking
They're
any
not
of that
you.
stuff.
I'm like, no, they are. I can see it in their eyes.
And so for me, I had some of my childhood was challenging, you know what I'm saying? And I was exposed to a lot more things, I think, than maybe the average person at a lot earlier age and throughout my life. So I can easily fall prey to that.
Yes.
Projecting my own life onto their
awareness and
what
age.
Yeah.
That may not be there.
Or how could you not know that? Right? I'm like, well, bro, you have 45 years on them. Maybe that, that might be have a little bit to do with it.
They're 5 years old. They've not experienced life quite the same way that you have yet.
Right. But my wife's a good meter for me on a lot of that stuff, and I'm grateful for that. Plus, I'm an incredible parent, as denoted. Hold on. You don't believe me? I brought cards. You're a prime example of fatherhood done right. Mm-hmm. Boom. Have a flipping good Father's Day.
That's awesome.
So it's not me just saying this. It's we've had this process of the past couple episodes of just saying things and going with them, but I brought evidence to back it up this time.
Back up my awesomeness.
There aren't many men like you, right? You keep it simple, you keep it real, and you show the world what it takes to be a good man.
Hey,
have truer words ever been spoken. You know what I'm saying?
I submit that they have not.
They haven't. That's exactly what I'm saying. So I brought reference material this time, footnotes. So I'm not just singing my own praises and stuff. I have backup from other witnesses that have witnessed my grandeur.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and been able to do that. And speaking of Father's Day presents, I'm going to show this.
Yes, please do.
Because I got this.
I'm going to grab a drink of water here real quick.
Do it up. I got a couple of cool ones. It's a Monty Up traveling humidor, waterproof. It's got the what's this hygrometer? Hygrometer right in the lid, and open this bad boy up. It's got the foamy stuff inside of it.
Nice.
Got some sweet cigars.
You need me to hold that for you?
We'll come back to this thing. Yeah. Well, yeah, you might need to.
Here we go. I'll be Vanna White for our elder audience.
And then I'll take out my cigars.
Mm-hmm.
Pop it there. I've got my Belvedere pack. What is it called?
The Boveda?
Boveda pack.
Uh-huh.
It comes with
Mr.
an
Belvedere.
ashtray. You guys can't even see that, can they? Comes with an ashtray,
You see that,
a
yeah?
cigar stand right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome. I'm gonna pull that out and show it to them.
Yes.
This
please
is a
do.
little thing to dropper to keep your humidifier thing, and I have a lighter that came with it, right? And the lighter works as a stand
I gotta show this off. That's
for your
nice.
cigar, right?
I think I can see that.
Isn't that neat?
That's nice.
It's super nice. And then this, one thing that Chris has a cigar, what is this thing called?
It's a
Cigar cutter.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the ones that I've seen that are like this have always been a round hole. And they just kind of cut the cap off.
Guillotine.
A guillotine.
Cut.
Is that what it is? A guillotine cup. But on Chris's cutter here, he has all these different types of designs. It has a little slit, a big slit, and the guillotine one. And I told him I prefer the V cut, and then the thing that came with it is a V cutter, and it works perfectly, and I love it very much. So,
Yeah, it's a deep cut. It's nice.
yeah, it is very, very, very awesome.
I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool deal, and I'm really proud of it. And then, so we'll pop this back in there, and we'll stick these cigars back in there. And these two cushions are ribbed, and they hold the cigars kind of. They're all different sizes. These are very thin ribs, but they hold the cigars in place. And then this was what I got last night, and this is called a quinsun, and it's like a little metal piece of bamboo, right? And you have one too, but it has these things on the end of it. This is to run through the end of your cigar.
If you ever get, like I just got one, it's like a knot in the cigar, and you can't get any draw from it. It just completely clogs itself up.
Yeah,
That
works great for it. And so also great for self-defense if you can get them right in the eye. And on the other end is a cutter. This thing is a cutter, so you can core out the end of it. And then you're like, oh, well, if I pack something in there, how to get out? Well, the end is built so it actually punches out the thing. And then here's the cool thing. If you and a buddy are together and y'all both have these, y'all could eat an ear of corn.
Or you could also
does it go this way or long ways like this?
Whichever way.
So, but it's a cigar stabber. So you can, when it gets short, you don't waste the end of your cigar and you're not burning your fingers up. That's a cat's meow, right? So, I cleaned up on Father's Day from a cigar perspective. I'm going to actually leave that in there now because I don't want those holes to be stuck in the upper part of my cigar. So, that would not be cool. So, but anyways, that was my Father's Day presents, and this is a waterproof, airtight box, and I'm pretty proud of that. Pretty cool. It's cool gifts. And I think my next clip.
Like 'em.
You like that? You like my gifts?
I like
That's
it.
good.
Very nice.
And I got a sweet magazine from Senor Chris about cigars today. Cigars International. So I'll be perusing this and maybe come back with some talking points about
for
it.
our next order.
Yeah. There's so many though. So many cigars.
There's a lot of them to choose from.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't smoke like 6 a day or anything.
No, I honestly, I'm down to usually one a week now.
Yeah, I smoke
Just
a
when we're
couple a
here.
week actually. I smoke more than you now.
Yeah. You saw the bag whenever I first started.
Yeah.
Because I had to test them out.
Right.
I had to know what I was talking about. I had to experience a whole lot of them.
Right.
I think it's very common if you get started, especially if you like them.
Right.
You know, it's very easy to do. But it's a little challenging whenever you're trying to go change tires and smoke a cigar while lifting a 100-pound tire.
Right.
Quite. It's not.
You gotta wait until you're the boss, and then you're like, "Hey, what are you guys doing over there?"
I do a penguin.
I know. I think I'd be a great villain, number one, right? And now that I've taken up cigar smoking, I would be a villain 100% with a cigar. 100%.
I think it's pretty interesting to have villains and then really manly men, like the heroes, smoke cigars. A lot of them.
Yeah.
Like think about Arnold.
So then I must be a villain.
Okay.
By deduction, sounds like, are you calling me a villain? I'm a bad guy.
No.
So I was singing to my kids all week. They were like, something. I'm like, they're doing like some little kid game thing that they're playing. And I go, but then enter Bad Daddy, the arch villain, right? And they're like, Dad, stop, right? Because I'll just start, I'll do a voiceover. I'm like, in a world where Bad Daddy shows up when you're playing, and they're like, Dad, stop, right? And I rock it to the point of to where it's just like obnoxious, but they can't beat me up, so I can get by with it.
It's okay, you know.
Pretty much whatever I want for now. Bad Daddy in a world. That's it. You've heard that before.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Did you ever see the movie?
I don't even know what the movie's from.
So there's a movie about voice actor. She wants to be the next in a world.
Okay.
Right, like that was so revolutionary whenever it came out for movies and all this kind of stuff that, man, whoever came up with that line, he's the upper echelon of nobody's ever going to reach it. And so she's trying to do the in a world, but it's a girl, you know, it's a girl, and it's just her struggle. But yes, in a world. In a world.
Yeah. I do that all the time. I narrate a lot of things that are going on in the house.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do voiceovers for my children, especially the ones that can't talk.
Right.
Or don't have a whole lot to say.
You give them a dialogue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do it with animals too.
Right.
Yeah. That's actually how I won my wife over. We were in Gatlinburg, and we were walking along the stream, creek, river, whatever, and there were ducks.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing voiceovers for the ducks. And she told me, she didn't tell me then, but she later told me, she goes, that's when I knew I wanted to marry you.
Really?
There you go, gentlemen. Just start working on your voiceover for animal skills, and you too may find your bride.
I don't know that will work for everyone else.
No.
So did you ever find, like, is your wife's a big animal lover? Obviously, you guys have several kinds of animals. But so is that the thing that pulled her in is because you had an affinity for animals, or is it because you were so great at doing the made-up dialogue?
I think she liked the dialogue.
Yeah.
She liked the dialogue.
So you're doing like a little funny skit for what they're doing. Like, hey, what are you doing over here?
Yeah.
Don't talk to me like that.
Yeah, like, well, what's over here?
You're eating my quackers, right?
Oh, hey, check out what I found.
Yeah.
Like, just so excited about what they found. No, it's mine. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you got to come check this out and all that kind of. Yeah, okay, I can see that. I do crazy stuff like that.
I do with our chickens too.
Do you?
Yeah. Especially in the mornings whenever I go to let them out, and it's just me, and they're obviously not really having a conversation, but I give them conversation. And I'll video sometimes for my wife because she loves to see the chickens, and she's obviously not here.
Yeah.
So I'll video, and then I'll do voiceovers on the video for her to send to her what they're saying, and she talks about how much she loves it.
I could do something like that, I guess, for my wife, but my videos would be more like, look at me, I'm getting into the flour. I'm about to jump into the oil and take a swim. Later, I'll be eating. I'm so happy.
It's hot in here.
I'm a chicken leg. Wait, I thought you were supposed to boil me slow. I'm like, no, that's the frog, right? The boiled frog reference.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to decide now as I get older, and like, someone asked me, it's like, are you getting tired? Are you in your older age? Like, is it hard to get up in the mornings or anything? Are you feeling exhausted? I'm like, to me, I just feel normal. But like, if I sit and think about it, I'm like, but when I was 22, this wasn't my normal at all. So maybe I am exhausted. It's just like slow degradation since I'm taking the ride with me.
Yeah.
Had someone seen me back then and then see me now, they'd be like, oh, wow, it's way different. But for me, I'm like, man, it's just kind of like every morning.
It's the next day.
It's a little bit less, a little bit less, and a little bit less. Yeah,
I feel older in this heat.
I bet, dude. I mean, just been cranking, too.
I mean, I've been moving. It was so funny today. On the last one, last tire that I was changing, I was actually in the shop. And I'm crawling underneath there and grunting and groaning as you know. And the young guy who's over there, who's working with me, he's like, hey, quit those old man noises underneath there. And then I went back underneath there to get the jack stand. And one of the supervisors come back, and he goes, what are you doing, taking a nap? And I was like, yes, this is the coldest spot in the shop.
On the concrete floor. Heck yeah.
Yep.
I would talk about my work more, but it's not as interesting because it's just clacking stuff on a computer and rules, so I'll just sound bossy and over intelligent. So I just don't even mess with it.
What's one of the craziest jobs you've ever had?
Whoa. The craziest job would have to be when I was in the military, I guess, because, you know, jumping out of a plane, that's pretty nuts. Doing it with a gun, a lot more crazy. You know, they send you all over the world. You get to go to other countries with a gun. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the craziest job that I had. I haven't had any like...
You're like, apart from that, I worked at a movie theater?
No. No, I tell you, I did a lot of construction stuff.
Yeah.
I did acoustical ceilings. I did drywall finishing. I used to be a really good drywall finisher. And then, so I do patches and stuff at my house if they're ever needed or any of that kind of stuff. But then this most recent time when we did the kitchen and, you know, I realized quickly that I'm not as adept at drywall finishing as I used to be, right? Like you just lose the touch because it took me a long time to get to that point where I could handle a knife and not leave any feathered edges on the when I'm pulling mud and all that kind of stuff. Now, man, if I pull a stroke of mud across the wall, you're going to be sanding for about 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? I only pull mud in right angles. You know what I'm saying? It has to have a ledge. It's just there's no smoothness to it at all anymore. So that's disappointing, and that's just training and muscle memory, you know, for your fingers and all that stuff. Because this whole back when I used to finish, man, this whole set of muscles was just huge on my hand because of working that, you know, the 12-inch knife and the 8-inch knife and 10-inch knife. So it's way different now. I'm back there with 3 fingers trying to hold up the scoop of mud just to get it on the wall. It's so sad. But thankfully we had hired people that could come in behind me and clean up. And like, well, I filled in the big chunks. So you can clean up. You can finish it. I did the tape and bed on it. So, but yeah, it's the crazy jobs. I delivered beer for a local alcohol distribution company where they sold like Night Train and Colt 45. Yeah, that was kind of crazy. And that I don't know if this is allowed to say anymore, but this is how it was written in my papers. It's called you got Chinese overtime for when you went over 40, and you know what that means? That you work halftime. You get paid halftime instead of time and a half. They're like, we're still going to pay you if you go over 40, but you only get halftime. The intent is to make you do your route and not get overtime. Right. I don't know if it was legal or if it is, or if that's still crazy. A thing, but that happened. That was, had Chinese overtime in that. And then I drove a truck that was for like it's called Hope Harbor. But they were like a missionary outlet thing, like kind of like a Goodwill type thing, but for recovering addicts and stuff. And so you could donate your stuff to them. We would come by in trucks, loaded up, refrigerators, couches, clothes, whatever, dressers and all that stuff, and then take it back. They had this whole warehouse where they bring it in, they clean it all up, see if they could salvage it, and then they would either give it to somebody who was getting into their home, or they would sell it on a front end, like a storefront, and use the proceeds to help. Absolutely. So it's pretty cool. And I did, worked in the back of a computer store once I started doing my IT training. Once I started doing IT training, I just went soft. You know what I'm saying? It's like air conditioner is a good thing. You know what I mean?
I like sitting. This is nice.
This is really cool. And the fan is on me. If I want, I can put a heater under my desk if it's cold or whatever. And
shoot, right now you really got it made.
I do.
You work from home.
Yeah, and there's nothing like that. I was talking to, I guess, what's the newest generation? The Gen Zers? Is that who's out now?
Alpha?
Is it Alpha?
I think is the newest one.
I read some article, and this is where we're going to go back to our normal protocol where we read the slightest information and then make a statement about it.
Really strong stance.
Yeah. So, but it was basically, I'm really not going to do that, but I have something to share about it. But I read this article that talks about, like, the youth of today are saying, hey, man, the 40-hour work week that everybody brags about, like, I worked my butt off, and that's how I've made my own, and, da-da-da. They're like, bro, you shouldn't be working your whole life away so you can have 5 or 7 years at the end of your career to enjoy, right? And now you're too old and unhealthy in a lot of cases to even really be able to enjoy it, and you're on a budget and all that other stuff. So that kind of resonated with me, and I was like, and that's why you see so many entrepreneurs and people trying to do influencing and all this other stuff, trying to get these other revenue streams to go. I'm sure there'll still be a bunch of people that take regular jobs and stuff, but they're already talking about jobs going away because of AI and all this other stuff. But it kind of occurred to me at first when I heard those guys, I was like, oh, those ingrates, they're not willing to work hard and all that other stuff. But then, now that I get older and I don't want to work 40 hours a week or better, 60 some weeks, to where I'm doing that for the rest of my life, which is the path that I'm on and will likely take. But the work from home movement, this is where I'm going with all this. The work from home movement, I realized from our generation that happened recently because of a little bit pre-COVID, but then certainly with, am I allowed to say that? Cut that out.
Cough.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Pre that, and then things kind of changed in the workforce with that, right? A lot of people were sent home. We made a concerted effort to be able to facilitate everyone working from home. So only the essential people had to be in the office to do, or in stores or whatever. And so that, and then now that period is over in our world, some people are going back into the workplace and some aren't. And a lot of people are pushing hard to not, right? It's like become a thing now. And so we are the precursor. That's where I'm going with this, is for that article that I read about the people who are going like, hey, I don't want to do this for a work week. We're that first step, because whether you realize it or not, when you work in an office, or like I did, and you have to go an hour in, an hour back, you may work late, you may have to take a call at night or whatever, that eats up an enormous part of your day, not just the 8 that you spend on the clock.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Traffic, I got to swing by
an hour and a half each way.
Right. It's an inconvenience to go to the grocery store because you ain't just pop out and pop back in. You got to make a special effort to get there. And so all of those things, when you work from home, those things all shift, right? You get back a couple hours a day, travel time. This is assuming that obviously that you live 45 minutes to an hour away from your house, from your job. But you get that time back, the frustration of sitting in traffic, so your quality of life has gone up there. You basically get a raise from not having to drive, right? Wear and tear on your car, that's a raise, that the money you're not paying out. And so it's the first step to reducing the 40-hour slave work week kind of scenario that we have, because it really has not been 40 hours. Everyone's like, oh, you don't need to work a 40-hour work. Well, you were really working 60 just from traveling.
Yeah, the amount of effort and time that you're actually putting into your job.
Getting up, getting dressed to go to work, packing your lunch. You know what I'm saying? All of that stuff counts as part of facilitating your job out away from your home. I don't have to do a lot of those things, you know what I'm saying, now working from home. And it's a huge blessing and a huge boon. But anyways, it's the tip of the iceberg for people to move away from the maybe eventually nobody will have to work at all, and we're just the start of it. That's fireworks. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. I tensed up a little bit. I was like, are they raiding us? What have you done?
Land.
Yeah, exactly. Prepare to land.
Prepare to land. I will say that for me, my job now it's the first time I've been at a job where I can make more based on the amount of work that I do. Right.
Like a commission type
Like
base.
a commission.
Yeah.
And I've only ever seen commission in sales.
Right.
And that never really, was something that I thought I wanted to do. I wasn't good at it early on because I just didn't know enough about life to really be able to sell.
Right.
I was still figuring out who I was and, all that kind of stuff. But I will say that doing what I do now, I don't think in terms of hours that I'm working.
Right.
Which is extremely liberating.
Right.
If you've never experienced that before, I can't recommend it enough, because I don't think of how many hours do I have to put in.
Or how long do I have to stay before I can leave?
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Whether I am wanting to maybe leave early on a day, I can make up that money by working harder or picking up extra stuff earlier in the week,
right? To
be able to do that and it not hit my paycheck. Whereas before, it's like, I've got to put in all these hours.
You have to put in hours.
And thinking in hourly is just crazy.
Yeah.
It really is crazy to me, because the productivity for the majority of the employees is not, they're not putting in productive time for 60 minutes of every hour.
Right.
You're just not.
Right.
And the company knows it. The employees know it. They try and get the most out of you for it. But at the end of the day, they're going to pay you for the full hour that you're on the clock. And you are also stuck there for the full hour on the clock. Whether you get all of your work done in that first hour or not, they still have you trapped.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, it's trapped. And I...
And even if you're not busy in that scenario, if you say, like, hey, can I leave early? They're like, yeah, you can, but you got to clock out. You're not going to get paid. Right.
So we have no work here, and you're going to pay me to stay here, but you wouldn't just pay me to leave.
Right.
And
we could turn off the lights and the air conditioner, and you can save a little bit of extra money. Yeah.
It's nuts. It's nuts to me.
I'm a knowledge worker now, so I believe this to be true, and it may sound silly, but I work even when I'm not working, right? Mm-hmm. Because I know that I've got some big project or some big issue that I'm working on, and I'm mentally, thinking about it subconsciously even. You know, sometimes I've dreamed solutions. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll wake up and go like, oh, I figured it out. There's been times that I've been, dare I say, a little inebriated out with the wife or something, and we've had a couple cocktails, and I'm still thinking about that work, and we're trying to have a civil conversation. I go, I figured it out. I got it finally. And I was like, write this down, text me this, you know, and figure out solutions that way. And it's really weird. So, but I'm salaried, right? So I have no opportunity to make any additional money. I can't ride the clock and get overtime. You know, there's an expectation for you to be there at X amount of hours too, but I have flexibility with my company to be able to take off a day or half a day earlier, go do doctor. I can leave in the middle of the day and come back. Sometimes I work a little later. But also in the same respect, sometimes I work until 2 or 3 in the morning with my buddy at work. Like we'll get something done because we still had our regular job during the day, but then we have something that has to be deployed or delivered within a certain timeline. So we do put in the extra hours to be additionally productive, but no extra pay. Mm-hmm. But I get paid really good, so I'm not gonna knock on my situation in life because it's pretty good. Yeah. But so if I do want to complain about something, it's my swimming pool.
What about it?
Man, that thing was, you know, we got this little robot vacuum thing with a fine mesh screen, and that thing worked awesome. It still does, and picks up all the green stuff because we have something that falls into the pool and it'll lay on the bottom of the pool. It's not leaves. It's like some little layer of stuff. So like if you touch it, it feels not gritty, but not slimy. It's kind of like just, it has some kind of viscosity or something to it. You can tell it's there. But if you touch it, it'll just go poof and go into a cloud into the pool and it could be clear water with a green hue on the bottom. And then as soon as you touch it, now the water starts to get cloudy and the more it moves around. Same thing with this vacuum. It goes through, it pulls up a lot of it, but it still it stirs it up and it's clouding up. So I'm having this tremendous problem with cloudy water now. Yeah. And, you know, that said, we've also had some crazy bouts of rain. Yeah. And you have to remember that keeping a clear pool is all about chemistry, right? It's about you keeping the pH and the alkalinity. And, you know, boy, if you want to hear me talk about stuff and take a stand on stuff that I know nothing about, and only because it's a refusal of me to buy the right tools and to learn anything about it. I'm like, I think that I should be able to put an extra bottle of this into it. And if I do that, and it'll be fine. That should fix it. It says clarifier on the side of the bottle.
Yeah, clarify.
A little bit.
Do your job.
A little bit clarifies it.
A lot of it.
And then I won't have to clarify it again for a while because it's got extra clarifier in it. It does not work like that, right? It turns out there's chemical reactions that take place, and
really murky.
You get chlorine lock. Like you can make your water to where it's so alkaline or so I think it's alkaline. If your alkalinity is too high or too low, the chlorine will lock. You can pour chlorine in there, but it'll lock and not do its job. You can't even it doesn't even register on your strips because there's no free chlorine in there. Wow. So you have to do things like throw in. Well, there's tons of different ways you can do it. Go to the pool. That everyone keeps going, take your water up to the pool thing, and I'm like, man, I do that, but every time I walk out there, I have $450 worth of pool chemicals that I've got to do, and then you go online and you look at these guys that have the above ground pool like I do, and their water is crystal clear. Yeah. And they're like, man, the only thing I'm doing is I pour in half a gallon of bleach every end of every week, and I put in floater tabs, and that's it. And it stays like this the whole summer. And I'm just
Lies.
like, I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a lot of them that are lying then. But their water looks so good, and mine just is, it looked good for a real long time, but the rains, I think, is what threw it off. And I wasn't thinking that, so I didn't go out and try to treat it after the fact, after it rained, because there was they got the little squares on the side, on the wallpaper of the pool, the liner. So they're probably about an inch each square. And there was one time, and we keep it at as low a level as we can, because one of my boys is a little bit shorter, right? And so I want him to be able to, at least on his tippy toes, be able to maneuver around the pool. It rained one day, dude, and within probably 3 or 4 hours, 2 squares had filled up in the pool. That's a tremendous amount of water, right?
A lot of water, yeah.
It takes hours to get that thing from a water hose to go up that much, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like a long time.
Yeah.
And but it happened in just a matter of
Father's Day was probably like that.
Yeah, so exactly, it goes, but it just was freakishly high amounts of water being dropped. Well, when you put 2 inches of water in a 26-foot round pool, you do the math on that. That's a lot of gallons of water.
Yeah.
And so now your pH is off, your chlorine is jacked up, and everything is out of it. So if you don't go out and test it and handle it immediately, right?
It's out of control.
That thing, it does. It just runs away from you, and then it becomes this thing that you chase for the rest of the summer, right? Yeah. So my next step is I've asked my wife to go ahead and order one of those pool tester kits, because we've got the strips, and everybody dogs. If you post anything, it's like, oh, and you post a picture of your strip, man, the internet will wear you out, right? It's like, why are you still using a strip? Those don't work. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone, is an authority on it. But anyways, I'm going to get one of those little things where you dip the water in, you put the drops of chemicals in, it tells you exactly what you're supposed to put in there and stuff. And ultimately, I'm probably going to end up taking a sample to the pool place. I just didn't want to do it, man.
Help me, please. My water is
you come out of that thing and you're pushing a cart, bro. You go in with a jar of water and you come out pushing a flatbed cart with, 8 pounds of this stuff on it, and put this in a sock and hang it on the edge of the pool, let that go for 14 hours. And then after the 14 hours, put in 2 scoops of this, and then test if the, if the water's not this, then do, this. And it's like, it's got stabilizer and anti-algae, and we've done it before we had the vacuum, though, right?
Yeah,
so I think if I did it now and just take the ride, spend the money, that's what I'm trying to avoid. I've been putting in baking soda and liquid bleach, right? So if any of you guys are expert pool care people and you want to drop in the comments your secret sauce on how to make your pool done clear with like less than $7, I would appreciate it. So,
we'll look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, right now we're buying these giant bags of baking soda, and you got baking soda, and you put like 3 or 4 pounds in that, right? Yeah. But I am learning about like parts per million and stuff like that. But on the strips, it's very, very vague. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like 2.7, 3.1, and you're like, that must be 3.1 million parts per million or whatever. So, but yeah, I'm hoping to get my pool working good. I'm still swimming in it, though. I will not let it change my life. Yes. So
I will not be ruled by this pool.
I don't swim with my eyes open underwater anyways, so I'm not really tripping on it. You know what I'm saying? As long as it's...
Nothing is absorbed in the skin.
Yeah, nothing's absorbed through your skin. And like little water parasites and stuff that are smaller.
It doesn't matter.
That doesn't even exist. If they existed, we'd see them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, good grief, that is total misinformation.
I know. The Church of Science. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Everybody knows that everything only goes into your mouth.
I look at it this way, man. Chlorine lock or not, I've poured enough gallons of chlorine in that stuff. If you can live in that stuff, you deserve to infect me.
Good job.
You know what I'm saying?
Good on you.
You're a ninja. You're a cockroach. You're a microscopic cockroach, and you deserve to live on me or on me.
That's awesome. Well, that is our time for tonight. I really appreciate you joining us. Thank you, B-Rye, for an awesome first live experience. Thank you for joining us. All of you viewers who watched live, we appreciate you being here. If you did not watch live and you're watching this later, we appreciate you joining us. Make sure, if you liked the content, to give us a thumbs up. Put something down in the comments section. Share it on social media. Subscribe to the channel. It's a great channel to have on in the background. Great channel if you are just needing some encouragement, things of that nature. I really do. My mission and my goal really is to help encourage specifically men. I want to really encourage especially young men who may not have a male role model in your life that you can look up to on what it is to be a man, and you find yourself getting discouraged. This is a great place to come and get encouragement. And we will see you next time when we can share a cigar and change the world.
Love it.